So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yeah, our wannabe dictator sure loves to play with his pardon powers, and if you're a Trump loyalist, it seems that no bad deed will ever go punished. And it's bad enough to see a crypto billionaire get let off the hook or a disgraced congressman get a new pass at life. But when he pardoned the J6 rioters, who were clearly lawless assholes, he did the very thing that he has always accused Biden of. He let violent felons loose in America. And by doing so, he just allowed a guy who admitted to soliciting a little kid in the worst way possible, allowed that guy to never serve a day in jail for those crimes. Crimes against kids, all because of Trump's ego and his desire to whitewash what happened on January 6th. Let that sink in while you hit subscribe to Really American Media. You may want to grab a barf bag because this one's not going to sit well. Let's start at the start. Before Trump was sworn in back in January of this year, Vice President J.D. Junior Dictator Vance was asked if pardoning the violent J6 types was a good idea. And apparently he answered before he got his official talking points from his boss.
Vice President-elect J.D. Vance says people responsible for violence during the Capitol riot on January 6th of 2021, quote, obviously should not be pardoned, he said. This after President-elect Donald Trump's promise to pardon many of those rioters. More than 1,500 people have been charged with federal crimes stemming from the siege. It left more than 100 police officers injured and sent lawmakers running into hiding. Hundreds of people who were not violent or destructive were charged, but only with misdemeanor offenses for illegally entering the Capitol.
Yeah, J.D. Junior Dictator Vance obviously said they should not get pardoned. Oh, J.D., how naive of you, because obviously Trump will do whatever the fuck he wants to do, and other MAGA lapdogs like you are just going to twist themselves into a pretzel to defend it.
Republicans have long said you guys back the blue. How do you justifiably say that when Trump just pardoned a bunch of violent January 6 rioters who attacked Capitol Police? And if those rioters come to the Capitol, will you welcome them back here?
So look, everybody can describe this however they want. The president has the pardon and commutation authority. It's his decision. And I think what was made clear all along is that peaceful protests and people who engage in that should never be punished. There was a weaponization of the Justice Department. There was a weaponization of the events. The following, the prosecutions that happened after January 6th. It was a terrible time and a terrible chapter in America's history. The president's made his decision. I don't second guess those. And yes, it's kind of my ethos, my worldview. We believe in redemption. We believe in second chances. If you would argue that those people didn't pay a heavy penalty, having been incarcerated and all of that's up to you. But the president's made a decision. We move forward. There are better days ahead of us. That's what we're excited about. We're not looking backwards. We're looking forward.
Yeah, way to back the blue, MAGA, but only when it's convenient for you. But was it really that bad for the cops that day? I mean, maybe they were all just being a little dramatic. Maybe those rioters were just sightseers, as other MAGA lapdogs have described them.
This video shows the moment rioters dragged Officer Mike Fanone down the steps of the Capitol, punching and tasing him. He was even pummeled with an American flag.
It was difficult to offer any resistance when you're only about 30 guys going up against 15,000.
A photo from overhead shows the officer face down on the ground, a rioter holding a police baton over his neck.
Guys were like grabbing gear off my vest and they ripped my badge from me. I was tased, I think about a half dozen times on the back of my neck. I remember guys chanting, like, kill him with his own gun.
Officer Fanone says he thought of his 4 daughters and yelled to the crowd, I have kids. A couple of them showed mercy.
Thank you, but for being there.
Well, all right, I guess it was that bad. As if that is news to anyone watching this. And I've got a few stories to highlight what some of these MAGA maggots have done since Trump set them free. But let's start with this human piece of shit.
More breaking news now. Another arrest in Houston linked to the insurrection attempt at the Capitol on January 6th. Court documents show Andrew Taake was caught on camera pepper spraying police officers trying to prevent rioters from entering the Capitol building. They say he was later seen hitting an officer with a whip-like weapon. This marks the 9th Houston area arrest.
Yeah, so that's Andrew Taake, who was safely rotting in jail until Trump Trump decided to set him free with no understanding of the other crimes he had allegedly committed.
A man who was pardoned after having been convicted for his actions at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, is now wanted by authorities in Texas. The Harris County District Attorney says 36-year-old Andrew Taake is charged with online solicitation of a minor. The charge was pending before he was arrested by federal authorities in July 2021 for assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers using a dangerous weapon for his actions in D.C. that day. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. Taake was one of more than 1,000 people pardoned by President Trump as one of his first official acts of his second term.
Yeah, Andrew Taake was already wanted for soliciting a minor, and then he got himself arrested for his role in the J6 riots. Trump ended up releasing him. He then got picked back up for the state charges for trying to hurt a kid. And new today, we see this headline: Trump pardon helps child sex offender avoid prison despite guilty plea. You heard me right, you read it right. Trump just gave a serial criminal a legal loophole that's going to allow him to not serve any time for a crime he admitted to. All because Trump issued blanket pardons instead of looking at each case individually. Andrew Taake pleaded guilty in September to soliciting what he believed was a 15-year-old girl, but this 37-year-old asshole is now able to stay out of prison for that offense due to credit he was given for time served behind bars for attacking a police officer during the infamous riots in D.C. He accrued about 3 years and 7 months of credit while serving in pre-trial detention before he was sentenced for his part in the J6 riots. He then struck a plea agreement with the prosecutors in Texas. He's required to register as a sex offender for 10 years, but his prison time related to the J6 riot and Trump's ensuing pardon allows him to avoid jail time for trying to assault a 15-year-old girl who was actually an undercover cop, but obviously he didn't know that. And this is not the only case of Trump setting rioters free who clearly should have been rotting in jail to keep the rest of us safe.
A Tennessee man who was pardoned by President Trump has been sentenced to life in prison for plotting to attack FBI agents and attempting to incite a civil war. Edward Kelly was the fourth rioter to enter the Capitol on January 6th. He faced a separate investigation for targeting federal agents who were looking into his role in the Capitol attack. Now Kelly is set to spend the rest of his life behind bars.
Yeah, well, I'm glad he's now spending life behind bars for something else. Better late than never, assuming Trump doesn't pardon him for that too. Or how about this case out of Missouri?
She chose her actions that night, and she chose wrong.
Emily Hernandez walked into the Franklin County Courthouse ready to face her fate, and a judge gave her 10 years in prison for a deadly DWI crash January 5th, 2022. She pleaded guilty in November.
I think ultimately it speaks volumes to her actions and her regard for the justice system.
And she pleaded guilty before for her involvement on January 6, 2021, and served 30 days in federal prison. Video shows her holding a broken sign belonging to former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. A year later, Hernandez drove with a blood and alcohol level of 0.125 on Interstate 44 for several miles before crashing into another car.
To go as many miles as Emily did, how do you do that?
That car had a Franklin County couple inside, Victoria and Ryan Wilson. The couple just left dinner celebrating their 15th wedding anniversary.
Yeah, a J6 rioter was given a clean slate with her riot conviction wiped off her record, and she then turned around, got drunk, and killed a kid. Or how about this other story that's also new today? It's from the New York Times. Jonathan Braun, whose sentence was commuted by President Trump, has now been sentenced today to 27 months in prison following allegations of various criminal activities, including physical and sexual assault, and this happened since Trump released him. Braun, who previously pleaded guilty in 2011 to drug trafficking and money laundering and had a documented history of violence, serves as an example of how presidential pardons and commutations can result in somebody reoffending, hurting you and me. This is what the America First president has done to all of us.
More than 400 of the people that you pardoned, though, assaulted officers. So I want to ask you about the Vice President, J.D. Vance. He said, this is a week ago, he said, if you committed violence on January 6th, obviously you should not be pardoned. Why is your vice president wrong?
Well, only for one reason. They've served years in jail. They should not have served, excuse me, and they've served years in jail, and murderers don't even go to jail in this country. And we had 1,500. We have 16 under review. As you know, we commuted about 16 of them because it looks like they could have done things that were not acceptable for a full pardon. But these people have served years of jail, and their lives have been ruined. And in many cases, listen to me for a second. Stop interrupting. They've served years in jail, and if you look at the American public is tired of it.
Yeah, welcome to Trump's America, where MAGA can do no wrong, but where Grandpa Donnie Stooges tried to throw the book at a guy who tossed a sandwich at a cop, and then failed miserably, by the way. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this. So please like this video, comment below, and get vocal. From the Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve podcast, I'm Steve Harness for Really American Media.